By late 1943, the German Panzerwaffe was locked in a brutal battle of industrial attrition on the Eastern Front that it was fundamentally losing. For 2 years, the vast steppes of Russia had become a graveyard for German armor as the Soviet Union unleashed thousands of rugged, mass-produced Tu-34 medium tanks and heavily armored KV series tanks from its relocated factories in the Urals. While Germany possessed outstanding tank designs like the Tiger I and the Panther, these vehicles were incredibly complex, highly over-engineered, and prone to severe mechanical breakdowns. The German industrial infrastructure, constantly pounded by Allied strategic bombing raids, simply could not match the sheer numbers being fielded by the Red Army. German tank crews were increasingly outnumbered on every sector of the front, and the German High Command desperately needed a tactical doctrine and a class of armored vehicle that could maximize defensive firepower while minimizing industrial production costs. The answer to this crisis lay in the tactical doctrine of the Jagdpanzer, or dedicated tank destroyer. Unlike conventional turreted tanks, a tank destroyer discarded the heavy, complex rotating turret entirely. Instead, the main anti-tank gun was mounted directly within a fixed, low-profile armored casemate built on an existing tank chassis. This design choice yielded massive tactical and industrial advantages. By removing the heavy turret mechanism, naval constructors and armored engineers could save thousands of hours of specialized machining labor and tons of strategic metals. Furthermore, the absence of a turret allowed for a much lower silhouette, making the vehicle exceptionally easy to camouflage in defensive hull-down positions, and allowed for the installation of a significantly larger, longer barrel gun than the chassis could have carried in a rotating turret. The stage was set for the ultimate realization of this concept. In late 1943, the German design bureau MIAG, in collaboration with the engineering teams at Krupp and Daimler-Benz, finalized the design for what would become the finest tank destroyer of the Second World War, the Sd.Kfz 173 Jagdpanther. The design was a masterclass in military engineering, utilizing the outstanding chassis of the Panther medium tank as its physical foundation. By replacing the Panther's turret with a beautifully sloped, single-piece armored casemate, the engineers created a vehicle with exceptional ballistic protection. The front armor plate was 80 mm thick, sloped back at a sharp 55-degree angle, which effectively doubled its physical thickness against incoming Allied shells and caused armor-piercing rounds to deflect harmlessly into the sky. The true lethal centerpiece of the Jagdpanther was its weapon, the 88 mm Pak 43/3L/71 anti-tank gun. This was the exact same legendary, long-barrel 88 mm gun mounted on the massive, 90-ton King Tiger tank. However, while the King Tiger was a slow, mechanically fragile monster that constantly broke down, the Jagdpanther weighed only 45 tons. It was powered by the highly reliable Maybach HL 230 V12 gasoline engine, which gave the vehicle an impressive top speed of nearly 29 miles per hour and excellent cross-country mobility. The Jagdpanther could easily traverse muddy, cratered terrain that would have instantly bogged down or destroyed the transmission of heavier German tanks, allowing it to move rapidly from one defensive sector to another. To protect the crew from the lethal threat of Allied infantry carrying sticky bombs and magnetic anti-tank mines, the vertical plates of the Jagdpanther were coated in Zimmerit, a specialized plaster-like paste that created a textured, non-magnetic barrier on the hull. Inside the vehicle, the crew of 5 operated in a highly efficient environment, utilizing advanced periscopic gun sights that allowed the gunner to target and destroy Allied tanks at distances of over 2,000 meters. This was far beyond the effective return fire range of any Allied Sherman or Soviet Tu-34 tank, giving the Jagdpanther crews a near-total tactical advantage in any long-range engagement. Historically, the production of the Jagdpanther was severely strangled by bureaucratic interference, Allied strategic bombing, and Germany's obsession with heavier, impractical armored projects. Adolf Hitler and the German Armaments Ministry continuously prioritized the manufacture of the massive King Tiger and the monstrous, 90-ton Jagdtiger, despite the fact that these colossal vehicles consumed vast quantities of steel, labor, and fuel that Germany simply did not have. Between January 1944 and the end of the war, German factories managed to construct only 415 Jagdpanthers. This tiny number was divided among scattered heavy tank destroyer battalions, and while they performed spectacularly in isolated combat actions, they were simply too few in number to stem the overwhelming flood of Allied armor. The primary bottleneck in Jagdpanther production was the continuous Allied bombing of the MIAG assembly plant in Braunschweig and the MNH facility in Hanover. These raids shattered the assembly lines, destroyed critical machine tools, and disrupted the delicate supply chain of Maybach engines and Pak 43 gun barrels. Furthermore, the German railway system, under constant attack from Allied tactical fighter bombers, frequently failed to deliver the raw steel plates and mechanical components to the final assembly factories. As a result, completed Jagdpanthers were often delivered to the front without critical spare parts, proper radios, or adequate ammunition, forcing crews to abandon these magnificent machines due to simple, easily fixable mechanical failures or lack of fuel. The tragic irony of the historical program was that the Jagdpanther was the exact armored vehicle Germany needed, a cheap, highly mobile, and lethal defensive weapon. It required far fewer man-hours to manufacture than a Tiger or Panther tank, and possessed a much higher combat-to-loss ratio when deployed correctly. But the industrial chaos of 1944 ensured that this ultimate tank destroyer would remain a rare, isolated threat on the battlefield rather than the mass-produced steel wall that could have fundamentally altered the defense of the Reich. In our alternative history, a profound strategic pivot occurs in the summer of 1943. Following the catastrophic failure of the German offensive at the Battle of Kursk, General Heinz Guderian, the Inspector General of Armored Troops, convinces the German High Command to halt all development and production of the over-engineered Tiger II, Jagdpanthers, and all experimental super-heavy tank designs. Guderian argues that Germany's only hope for survival is to establish a total, streamlined defensive doctrine based on armored mobility and mass production. Under this new mandate, the Panther chassis is selected as the universal armored foundation for the entire German army, and the Jagdpanther is designated as the primary armored combat vehicle to be manufactured. To protect the assembly lines from the devastating Allied air raids, German industrial planners relocate the entire Jagdpanther assembly program into a network of massive, bomb-proof underground factories carved deep into the Harz Mountains and the secure valleys of Thuringia. These underground facilities, operated under strict military supervision and utilizing highly standardized modular assembly techniques, are completely immune to Allied heavy bombers. Raw materials, Maybach engines, and Pak 43 gun barrels are transported via hidden underground rail lines directly to the assembly halls, ensuring a continuous, uninterrupted flow of production. By May of 1944, this streamlined industrial focus yields a formidable, fully operational force of over 1,500 mass-produced Jagdpanthers. Rather than being deployed in small, scattered units, these tank destroyers are organized into a The brutal tactical reality of this mass production is unleashed in the summer of 1944, during the massive Soviet summer offensive known as Operation Bagration. As waves of thousands of Soviet Tu-34 medium tanks and heavily armored IS-2 heavy tanks attempt to smash through the German lines in Belorussia, they run headfirst into the newly deployed heavy tank destroyer brigades. Positioned in deeply camouflaged, hull-down positions along the edges of dense pine forests and reverse slopes of the rolling hills, the low-profile Jagdpanthers wait in total silence. Their textured Zimmerit coating and extensive pine branch camouflage make them virtually invisible to the advancing Soviet tank commanders. At a distance of 2,400 meters, well beyond the visual horizon of the Soviet crews, the Jagdpanthers open fire. The long-barrel 88mm guns roar in unison, launching high-velocity armor-piercing shells that travel at over 3,000 feet per second. The results are devastatingly immediate. Dozens of Soviet Tu-34 tanks are violently ripped apart, their fuel tanks exploding and turret plates being blasted clean off before they can even identify the source of the fire. The Soviet tank commanders frantically order a charge, attempting to close the distance to bring their shorter-range guns to bear, but the Jagdpanthers exploit their superior mobility, reversing. The mass deployment of the Jagdpanther completely alters the strategic calculus of the final year of the Second World War. By halting the massive Soviet armored spearheads in the east and stalling the Allied breakout in the west, this formidable steel wall of tank destroyers buys critical months for the German defense. But more importantly, the Jagdpanther permanently redefined the future of armored warfare design. When Allied ordnance officers and Soviet engineers inspected the captured Jagdpanthers in the ruins of Germany, they were deeply impressed by the vehicle's perfect balance of sloped ballistic protection, low profile, and high mobility. In the immediate post-war era, the design philosophy of the Jagdpanther was directly integrated into the armored doctrines of both NATO and the Warsaw Pact. The Soviet Union, having experienced the lethal efficiency of the German tank destroyers firsthand, designed the highly successful Su-122 and the post-war IT-1 missile tank destroyer, utilizing the low-profile, turretless casemate concept. In the West, the French army developed the AMX-50 tank destroyer project, while the German Bundeswehr, during the Cold War, developed the Kanonenjagdpanzer, a sleek, high-speed tank destroyer that was the direct technological descendant of the Jagdpanther, designed to fight a defensive, mobile war against waves of Soviet tanks in the Fulda Gap. Ultimately, the Jagdpanther demonstrated to the world that pure size and heavy armor were secondary to mobility, industrial simplicity, and long-range fire superiority. It was a weapon system that was choked historically by Germany's failing war production and strategic indecision, but its design DNA lived on, shaping the development of the modern main battle tank, which prioritizes sloped composite armor and extreme mobility over sheer, unmanageable weight. The era of the giant, slow heavy tank was dead, and the future of land warfare belonged to the agile, low-profile hunters pioneered by the engineers of the Jagdpanther in 1943.